Live from Venturex Studios, it's My Son, My Veteran with Greg O'Connell.
Hello, everyone. Hope you love that intro music. I'm still dancing in my chair. It's about the only dancing I can do anymore, but I'm darn good at it when I do. At least I've been told. I'm kidding. At any rate, the show is My Son, My Veteran. Welcome to the second show, and I'm excited to be here and always excited to talk about our veterans and our active duty folks. The show today is going to be a little different in terms of topic. We're going to talk a lot about what's called TAP. That's the Transition Administrative Program. That means the last 6 months before someone's leaving the military, they go through TAP, and the idea is to kind of get buttoned up, get all their I's dotted, T's crossed before they leave. And it's a critical point, especially post military and specifically becoming a veteran. If you want to live a more successful life, we're going to urge you, not just today, but always, be aggressive, if you will, during TAP. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. It's also the DAV can help with TAP. The DAV Texas is incredible with regard to what they do for our great veterans and their families to live a higher quality of life with respect and dignity, joy, even peace. The DAV was instrumental in helping my son make this transition ultimately, and that's really why we're here, is to illuminate for veterans and their families and for active duty what the DAV can do for them. And we're going to constantly urge folks to reach out to the DAV. In Texas, it's davtexas.org, and we'll have that up a little bit later. We've got a guest from the DAV on the show today as well, and she'll be coming up shortly. But before I do that, I want to take a moment to share with you all a video that was presented. We had to take an extra week to make sure we had permission from the folks who made and produced the video, as well as the school system. And let me tell you what I mean by that. In Gunter, Texas, which is in North Texas, it's about maybe 35, 40 minutes from the Oklahoma border. The school system, which they may be listening today, and if they are, we say hello to you all. The school system has, I don't know, somewhere around 720 kids, K through 12. So it's a small little town. It's a great area. It's Americana, as they say. And so every Veterans Day, they go out of their way to acknowledge the veterans in their community and to bring them in to the schools and introduce them and so on and so forth. Well, with COVID this year, that was going to be a bit of a challenge. So a gal who is absolutely incredible, my goodness, incredibly creative. I can't tell you how wonderful this woman is. Her name's Laci Bracewell. Laci also owns her own little company called Ruby's Rubbish. And you can go there. It's www.rubiesrubbish.com, RUBYSRUBBISH.com, and you'll find out what that's all about. But we're really talking right now about the video that they made to acknowledge the veterans on Veterans Day in Gunter, Texas. And if we've got that queued up, we're ready. We're going to go ahead and run that. It's about 5 minutes. Forgive me, it's a little long, but I think you'll get the gist.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle Clemens. I was a senior airman when I got out. Proud to be a veteran because I was able to serve our country.
Hi, my name is Missy Crutchfield, and I served in the U.S. Army from 1985 until 1991. What it means to me to be a veteran and to support veterans right now is that close bond that you have to know the service that's being done around the world. You don't see it, you don't hear about it, but you know it's happening.
I'm proud that my dad served our country. My dad's Purple Heart, really important, and it's honorable.
I'm very proud of him. I would say that I miss him so much. I'm so proud of what he does for our country.
It makes me proud, yes, that he helps other people, and he serves our country. I think my dad's brave.
It makes me feel like I'm a pretty special kid. He put his life on the line for everybody in this country.
I'm Dakota Lowry. My dad is Vince Lowry. He's a first sergeant who is currently deployed. They sacrifice so much and work very hard to serve our country, make sure we have freedom. It makes me very proud that he's a soldier.
My veteran is my dad. He was in the Marines. It made me feel really proud that my dad wanted to serve his country.
My dad served and he is now a veteran. It takes a lot of focus and strength and a lot of training to be one.
Hello, I'm Zachary Clemens, and the veterans in my family are my mom, my dad, and my grandfather. It means a lot to me and stuff, and it's helped me think that maybe I'm going to join the military as well and go and serve my country like they did.
My father served in the U.S. Marine Corps. It makes me proud to know that my dad served in the military and that maybe one day I could too.
My papa, I think of him being a real hero to serve our nation. He served as a Marine and being sacrificed.
My dad's a veteran, and what that means to me is he's very devoted, and he sacrifices a lot of his time from his family to help others in the country, and it just makes me really proud of him that he puts his life on the line for everyone else.
Meaning that she spends her time serving for our country, knowing what the cost would be.
I'm always feeling really proud. I definitely look up to him a lot. I want to say thank you so much for risking your life for our country and being my father, teaching me what you know.
My name is Becca Patton, and I have two veterans in my family, and it's my dad and my grandpa. I'm really proud of them for serving for their country. I'm just proud.
I think it's a very important duty. You need to try your hardest, and sometimes you have to risk your life. Thank you for serving our country.
Thank you for your service. Thank you, Stu, for going out there risking your life so that we can live happy.
I think of them as like soldiers that they would risk their lives for their family, for their brothers, for their sisters, for their friends, for anybody, since they're good people. Thank you. Thank you for saving millions of lives. You are an amazing person. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for being so selfless and serving our country for the best.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for protecting us.
We're proud of you.
Just thank you for serving our country and helping us live free, keeping America safe.
Thank you for saving lives. Thank you for serving our country.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for putting up with me all these years.
Thank you, you're one of my heroes. I want to thank you for protecting our freedom.
There really is no words to thank a person that risked their life. I mean, you gotta say a lot of stuff to thank them.
Wow. So if you've got a tear in your eye, it means you're human. I've watched that half a dozen times, and look, I have tissues. What a wonderful, wonderful video. Those kids were not given a script. I just want you to know this. As you all know, or those who've listened to the first couple of shows know, this is a non-political show. But there are those in our world who think that serving their military is, I don't know, beneath certain standards. And so, when you hear these kids talking about their grandparents, their moms, their dads serving, and I think you could tell they're proud of that. And then the kids who say, someday I want to serve my country as well. Well, I also want you to know that there's about, give or take, 80 kids in a graduating senior class each year, give or take. And I think it was last year, that graduating class received a total of, I want to say, close to $2 million in scholarship, academic scholarship and other. If you do the math on that, that's about $25,000 of scholarships per graduating senior. And so the community is wise in so many ways, but they're there to raise good citizens, good students, possibly future good military service folks. And there's a lot of communities in our country. I'm thinking back on when I grew up in the small town of Glasgow, Kentucky, same way. Throughout the entire United States, many communities like that. I think the message conveyed by Gunner Gunner Independent School District via this video is one of beyond patriotism. I'm not going to use that word. It seems to be overused, but it's something that these folks are wholeheartedly proud of. And so I just want to say thanks to the superintendent and Laci Bracewell, who made this video. Wow. I still get choked up, and the thing's been off for about 40 seconds or so. So, Laci, thank you. Thank you, Gunner, Texas, all of you who were involved in that video. We couldn't be more proud, and congratulations. So, moving right along, I think they're trying to get my attention. Do you need something?
Somebody's on the phone.
Should be Teresa.
It's me.
Hi, Teresa. So
How are y'all today?
Good. It's good to have you. And there was a reason I have you coming on first, following right up after that video. And let me tell everybody who's on the phone, just an incredible soul herself. Teresa Johnicen is the adjutant of the DAV Texas. And for those who aren't sure what the heck that means, adjutant, it effectively is she's the CEO of Texas. Teresa is a 100% service-connected U.S. Army veteran. Teresa joined DAV in 1991, was a member of Chapter 83. She became the chapter commander, where she served in that capacity for 7 years. Ms. Johnicen also became a DAV Department of Texas line officer in 2006, going through all positions until being voted in as department commander in 2009 through 10. Upon finishing her year as commander, Teresa was appointed as department adjutant in 2010, where she remains today. And I tell you, in the short time that I've come to know Teresa, I know now why Texas is a well-oiled machine, as described by headquarters, if you will. And that is, she gets things done. She follows through. Can probably have a bit of a pit bull mentality if somebody got in the way of her helping her veterans. She's got a lot of great folks helping her, working with her as a part of her team. And Teresa, once again, I just want to welcome you to the show today.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
You're so very welcome. So last week we talked about the DAV in general, and for those who were not listening last week, Teresa, could you just maybe talk about, your mission? Yes, the Texas or the DAV Texas mission, but just in sort of a brief synopsis, tell folks who had not listened what the DAV is about.
Well, we're here for service. That's the word we use. But claims, free of charge, we help veterans and their dependents across the state with their claims, their education, death benefits, widow benefits, education benefits. The bureaucracy, if you have to go up against it by yourself, can be so overwhelming that people just throw their hands up and go, oh, never mind. But our people are trained so well that we hold your hand and do your work, and we can talk to the veteran or their family in real words that can be understood, where we are, where we're going, what we need.
Wow. That's really well said. And two things. Number one, these folks who work with you on your team, are they veterans?
Everyone that we hire is a disabled veteran themselves, yes.
And I want to point out, and I want to say again, as sort of a safe harbor statement, disclaimer, whatever you want to call it, I'm not here, and we will not poo-poo any organization. We're here to illuminate and lift up those who do an incredible job. And I just want to say that I think that's paramount in if someone were looking at why is the DAV so successful, why are they so great at what they do, is because of the people pulling the strings and making things happen and being on the phone, etc. They too are veterans. They've been through these things, and they're not just some employee of a government, as you called it, bureaucracy, and that's it's a good way of saying it. Government can be good when it's really good, and it can be bad when it's really bad. But all in all, the whole purpose of the DAV is to help our veterans. And I want to point out right now, before I go any further, how incredibly proud I am of the DAV. I'm so incredibly proud to know you, Teresa, and all the folks, back at DAV headquarters, etc., because you're so committed to this. And folks, up on the screen now, if you can see it, it says the DAV from 1920 to 2020. So literally celebrating their 100th year gala or birthday, as sort of a parallel or what. The VA has been around since 1932. The DAV's been around 12 years longer. The VA's much better known, obviously. And so this is one of our major goals, is to lift up and shine a light on the DAV and these incredible people. I say all the time, in a veteran's darkest hour is when the folks at the DAV shine their brightest. And I'm so proud of you, Teresa, for that. So I'll never tire of saying that, and I hope you never get tired of me saying it. So this week, as you and I talked the other day, we want to talk a little bit differently. This is about TAP and the transition period. And to me, this is critical because having gone through some of the challenges with my son, medically retired Sergeant Brian O'Connell, we've come to know that there were some things that could have been done in the last 6 months of his military service. And so just take a couple seconds or what, Teresa, and talk about that transition period and how critical it is.
Well, as we discussed, when I got out in the 70s, things had changed a lot. And my understanding is now there's actually like workshops and different things that are available to active duty to help them. But more importantly, we have what's called transition service officers that work for DEV. We don't have them on every base or post, but we have them scattered across the United States. And if you go to DEV.org and you look under veteran, that tab, there's actually a list of every TSO office and where they're located. If that's available to you, it would behoove you to go sit down with that person and let them help guide you through the claim process or to start it. My son is 100% service-connected veteran. He was in the Air Force. He was in Japan when he was about done. And I said, do not leave there without a copy of every scrap of paper that has your name on it. Medical records, your OPF, everything. You make sure you bring it home with you. And he did. And that helped us a great deal in filing his initial claim because we could actually go through. So even though you have these people available, or if you don't, either way, it is very important that you take care of yourself by bringing that information home with you. Especially being in a foreign country, it all has to be, it has to get back, and things happen, and people doing clerical work are just human beings. They can make a mistake.
Right.
So you need to protect yourself.
Yeah, it's well said. And I think that if I could just emphasize what you just said there, and why we're talking about this today is that you have an opportunity as you're transitioning out to make your veteran life a more wholesome, a higher quality of life. And if you just take a few minutes during transition, it's 6 months, take a few minutes and get your records, worst case. That's what Teresa's talking about here. And this is important, not just to those who are on military bases listening to us today. We're sending this message, conveying this message to you, but family members who are out there. I'll be honest, when Brian was leaving the military, he was just anxious to get home, and frankly, we were anxious to get him home. And so had I known what I know today, let's just say we would have been a little more aggressive and going after paperwork that Teresa's talking about. So that's an excellent point. So
the advice I was given when I was getting out, and that it took like 20 minutes. They weren't hardly doing anything back in that day. Was when you get home, file your DD-214 at the courthouse. It doesn't cost anything. And I said, okay, why?
Teresa,
so, well, when you lose that piece of paper, you can go get a copy for free.
Yeah, could you say that again?
And when you get home, your DD-214, you should go file at the courthouse. They cannot charge you for doing that. And then along the years, you can go back and get a copy for free when you can't locate it if you move, or you had a house fire, or the dog ate it, whatever. It's there.
Right.
And that's another point of advice I would have for everybody I run into. Even after they've been out 10 years, I say, have you filed that?
Right.
No, we'll go through it.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
We talked about this last week a little bit. My father-in-law is going through some medical issues and what have you. He's 93 and was in Korea and never filed a thing when he left the military. The VA doesn't even have in their records per se. His records are at the National Archive in St. Louis, and because of COVID, if we wanted to get his records, it would take 6 months. And so we don't even know what benefits, if he had benefits coming, what he would have at this point. So you make a great point. And by having it in your local courthouse, you don't have to go to Washington or St. Louis to find your records. It's filed there, right?
Well, it's just your DD-214,
right.
But, that tells a lot of information. So mine's there, and I had my son do the same thing. But that's one of the, to me, a really important thing. I had a house fire in my lifetime. So had it been in my house and I didn't have it at the courthouse, then I had to go through all this rigmarole to get me another one.
Right. Wow. And so in the few minutes we have left, and what's great about this show, Teresa, as you know, is we're going to be talking about this every week, week in, week out. If you're out there listening and you would like to reach out to Teresa, her email address is adjutant, ADJUTANT, at davtexas.com.
No, .org.
Or I'm sorry, .org. Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you
No
for
problem.
keeping me in line here. So adjutant at davtexas.org. But and as I said, we'll be talking about these things constantly. If you have a question for us, reach out to us. Through the show, we'll get answers for you. We want to be a resource for families, for veterans, etc. And so, as you just pointed out, Teresa, we were talking about, just doing something as simple as filing your DD 214 at the courthouse. As a mom, talk to moms and dads that are out there who know their son or daughter are about to get out soon. Give them some guidance and some advice, because not everybody leaves smoothly, if you will, meaning, in the case of my son who had been wounded in action, there was a lot of heavy lifting that should have been done that wasn't. And that's our fault, not anyone else's. But so what would you say to these parents, wives, spouses, husbands, what have you?
I would just, make sure that they understood the importance of getting those copies. And then, as a parent, my question to my son was, what do you want to do when you get out? And, of course, nobody really knows. Well, I guess some people do.
Sure.
I didn't.
Right.
My son didn't, because it's a huge change from being in the military, where you don't have to worry what you're going to wear tomorrow, because you're going to wear the same thing you did yesterday.
Right.
Then getting out into the civilian world, where there's suddenly all these things. There's like, oh, wow, am I going to go to school, or am I going to get a job, or do I have to do both? And I would take my child when they got home, as I did my son. I went through his records. I marked every little thing I thought he might have a reason to file a claim, and I got him involved in both rehab. There were education benefits that he wasn't interested in. That's just not his bag.
Right.
Everybody's not for college.
Right.
But if someone is, take advantage of those benefits.
Right. Right.
Get it while you can, because it doesn't last forever. And you have to be a good support system while they learn to readjust. Military is such a family that when you leave that family, it'd be like sending your child off to college. That they flail a little bit.
Sure.
While they're excited being there, it's the same thing coming home.
Right. Right. And, I think our next guest that'll be coming up shortly is a medically retired captain in the Air Force, and he and I were talking. And, captains, officers, non-coms tend to be a bit more buttoned up, as I say. But those who are, private specialists, lance corporals, what have you, seamen, whatever, they're kind of used to someone telling them what to do every day. And now suddenly, as they get out, they've got to start thinking on their own again. And those are things that we have to think about, and frankly, Teresa, you and I chatted about this. Sometimes you got to be a little patient. Our son, great kid, yeah, I still call him a kid. He's a great man, but when they're injured, when they're wounded in action, things happen to their bodies, their minds. If you're dealing with PTSD or TBI or whatever the case is, as parents, we don't quite know how to handle those things. In the past, we would say, oh, you're just being lazy, get off your butt and go do whatever. Well, that's not always the case either. And so some of the best advice I got from some very close friends who were ex-military was be very patient. And, when you think you've been patient enough, be more patient. They have fought for our freedoms, etc. So can you just take a minute and just maybe talk on that as well?
About patience with your child?
Yeah. I mean, when they're, yeah.
Oh, Lord. Well, when my son came back, he really didn't know what he wanted to do. He got a job.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a labor type job at a wood plant or whatever the heck it was. Well, I had his claim filed, and they worked on the strike system, and so he was having exams quite often.
Mm-hmm.
And he went in and said, well, I can't be here so-and-so day because I have another CMP in Houston. And they said, well, if you're not here, you're going to be fired. And he said, then I quit. And it's always stuff like that for him. And
right.
It wasn't fair for him not to be able to pursue his claim.
Right.
So he came home and he told me, and I said, well, that's all right. We'll figure it out.
Right.
You can't be mad at him.
Right.
So,
No way. Right.
And so the drug rehab thing happened, and he did that for one semester. And he just, like I said, everybody in for college.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so his both rehab said, you know what, we need to get your unemployability. So, but, he does more every day than most people do, even though he's 100%. Every day he has to do something for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But he told me that gives him self-worth.
Wow.
And if he's over at my house more in the yard, or he does something for somebody.
Right.
So you just have to encourage those things and let them be people and be a part of society in whatever way they fit.
Yeah, and let them find their way back. My son Brian is doing, oh my God, thanks to the DAV, I'll keep saying it. They were a lifesaver for him. And so, I wanted people to hear it not just from the adjutant of the DAV Texas. I wanted people to hear it from a mom, and in my case, a dad. Be patient with your veteran when they're home. They've got battles that are still being fought in their heads at night when they sleep and other times. So, Teresa, thank you again. I love our time together. It's always way, way, way too short. Teresa and I were talking the other day, and we're going to work. Our next show will be December the 4th because we'll be off on Black Friday. And so we're going to work on getting one of the National Service officers hopefully on air with us. And so
okay.
It's about the DAV. We're proud of the DAV, that what they do, etc. So Teresa, again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Have a good weekend.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So there you got it. And listen, these are going to be conversations over the weeks ahead. And, there's some talk, just FYI. We'll probably go to two shows a week pretty soon, likely by the first of the year, 3, because there's so much to talk about. I was telling some folks at the DAV, I was asked to do this and be a sort of a mouthpiece. And I said, I can talk about my son for 45 minutes or an hour, but kind of after that. And so there's plenty to talk about, as I was told, and there's plenty to talk about in the future. And that leads us right to the next discussion. And On the line, I think, is Ryan there? Do we have Ryan? Oh, okay. So on the line with us here shortly, I want to introduce a veteran. Ryan is a medically retired captain from the Air Force. Ryan actually reached out to us last Friday during the show and talked a little bit about what the DAV did to help him when he left service and was navigating a little bit of what Teresa was talking about. And so I wanted Ryan to come on today and talk a little bit about his journey, where he's been, where he is. And so I want to introduce another great veteran, Captain Ryan Riesenberg, retired. Ryan, how are you?
Hi, Greg. Good afternoon. I'm doing wonderful.
Awesome. We've got a casual look picture of you up on the screen right now. Do we have his officer?
That was in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, is that right? Do we have? And we have another pic that we'll throw up there so that they see that. Yeah, you're there. He is. Handsome man. So Ryan, I don't know if you were able to listen to the conversation I was just having with Teresa, who's the adjutant of the DAV Texas. But as you and I spoke this week, the topic is to talk a little bit about the transition period, the TAP, and for you, what is it you learned about TAP after you had left the military? So maybe start there. Maybe first talk about you were in the Air Force. Tell some of the folks. I happen to know he was trajectory-wise was wanting to become one of those crazy people who were in the hurricane planes. What type of plane is that, Ryan?
That is a C-130.
Yeah. The way I would describe it is not big enough for me. And so that was his trajectory. But tell everybody on the phone just a little bit about your military history, Ryan.
Yeah, sure, Greg. Thanks.
Yep.
I was able to listen to Teresa, and she had some very awesome points, very accurate, the way that she described herself and her son and the challenges that they went through.
Right.
So I was a pilot in the Air Force for 9.5 years. I got out in October of 2016 as I medically retired. I flew the C-130J at Adias Air Force Base in Texas. And prior to that, I was stationed at Yokota Air Base in Japan, where I flew the C-12J. And I also did a tour with the Army in Iraq flying the C-12V back in 2011 when they were shutting things down over there.
Okay.
So when I got out in 2016, I had a lot of challenges myself adjusting to life, going back to school, and trying to figure out how to, steer around all these tricks to get the benefits that I felt like I deserve.
Right.
And through the time, I have realized that there are so many veterans out there who are not utilizing these programs, mainly because they just don't know about it. And if they don't know about it, then, I feel like it's our obligation as citizens to make sure that they are aware of it, because, less than 1%, less than half of 1% of Americans serve in our country. And I feel like we owe it to them. And Congress has set aside these benefits for these people.
Yeah.
And if they're not used, then that money just kind of goes away.
Now, doesn't the VA reach out to you and say, hey, you've got all this coming to you, call us?
Well, no, they don't. So back to your TAP, the Transition Assistance Program. Every military member is required to go through this program within the last year of service when they find out that they're expecting to leave service.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I had kind of known a little bit more about TAP before it started and kind of what I wasn't getting at TAP. I don't believe that the DAV had a representative there at the time. I believe that they probably send more representatives now.
Right.
to those TAP programs.
Right.
I wish that I would have had a DAV representative at the time. That would be my biggest recommendation to all current military members right now, is when you do plan on getting out, get a DAV representative,
And let me
because it's going to make your transition so much easier.
Yeah, and let me just interject right there, Ryan, what Teresa said, and that is get on the DAV site and see if there's a TSO close to you. And I was talking to her the other day, and what about, okay, fine, I live in Texas, I happen to be stationed in Texas, so I can get a hold of Texas DAV, but what about somebody who's in, you know, Anchorage, Alaska, who lives in Oklahoma, and maybe they do or don't have a TSO? And her answer to that was to get on the DAV Texas or DAV.org site, either one, and look for a TSO. Reach out to somebody at a DAV office in the state you live in. So if you're going home to Texas or Oklahoma, reach out to the closest DAV office to your home and start getting some guidance that way. So go ahead. I wanted to interject that because it's an important part.
Absolutely. And I believe there are about 1,300 DAV chapters currently in America.
Right.
Which is quite a lot, since the first one started in 1920 in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So go on, keep talking. I interrupted you about the whole TAP program and what more you could have benefited from, etc. How could it made your journey a little easier?
Sure. So since I got out just over 4 years ago, I have been dealing with benefits. Had I known that it was going to be such a challenge at the time during TAP, I would have, made sure I got a DAV representative.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure they would have helped me say the things Teresa stressed,
right.
Get all your paperwork together now, because later it's harder to get it all and manage it all. There's 4.7 million disabled veterans right now that have a service-connected disability. That's just around 25% of all veterans.
Wow.
And I have ran into a lot of these veterans. I'm a pretty social person. And for example, if I'm in an Uber ride, we find out that we're both veterans. Over the past 4 years, I have done a lot of research on benefits for myself, but also if I talk to another veteran who has a question about benefits, I get online and I research it for them,
wow.
Which then also helps myself. It helps me even learn more about what I could qualify for. So even in an Uber ride, you find out that you're both veterans and you chat. And I found that so many veterans do not even know that these benefits are there.
Right.
And if they are aware that the benefits are there, they have no idea how to go about to get them.
Right.
And that is where the DAV comes in.
Just a real quick question, and rhetorical, but I want everyone to hear this. When you run into these veterans who need help or what have you, are they all guys?
No.
Yeah.
Actually, the last Uber person I spoke to, this one comes into mind because it was recent, was a female.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
There are plenty of
she had some
females
medical
who
issues.
Right,
she actually
exactly.
got out of the Air Force for medical issues, and I was kind of asking her about her disability ratings, and she basically said she didn't have any. And I was,
Wow.
and I was like, well, why not?
Yeah.
So, I pointed her in the direction and mentioned the DAV to her. I'm not sure if she followed up with that or not.
Right. Right.
Okay. I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing, especially raising money. What people aren't aware of, some people think, wait, there's money to help veterans out there. It's allocated.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but it's for certain things.
Right.
So the government doesn't really pay to advertise that you can just come grab these benefits. So, the DAV can reach out to these people if we help the DAV. These volunteers are very crucial for that process. Even just to get the word out via media or brochures at Air Force bases and Marine bases, to put that into every active duty service member's head that, hey, this does exist, and at least just to know. You don't have to know the laws and regulations behind all these or what all your possible privileges are, just
Right.
know the DAV is there, because they will know all that
Right.
information for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I was talking to Teresa yesterday, Ryan, and I guess it's okay if I call you Ryan.
Oh, absolutely.
And one of the things she pointed out was a recent veteran that she had helped, and he had his post 9/11, but he had been injured. He did not have his voc rehab. In Texas, we have what's called the Hazelwood Act. He didn't have that either. And what that effectively meant to him was just about doubling your benefits. And there's a lot of states that take care of their veterans and do a great job. I'm just going to, do a little shout out here to the state of Texas, who my son is a Purple Heart recipient, gets incredible, has more benefits, if you will, than just what the VA offers, et cetera. And so to your point, it's go discover. There's a treasury trove of benefits that you've all earned.
Yeah, exactly. Every state has different benefits.
Right.
And since you're talking about Texas,
right,
even just getting a little bit of service-connected disability, even if it's rated at 0%, starts getting you benefits. Just being a disabled veteran gets you eligible for health care for covered claims. Once you get up to 50% VA, you are covered for free health care and free prescription costs for life.
Wow.
At 100%, you get free dental, I believe free vision as well.
Wow.
At 10%, you get waivers for VA funding fees on your VA home loans, which saves you
Wow.
3% of the cost of your home. Texas specifically, actually, if you're 100%, they will give you a total property tax exemption on your home. And that starts at a 10%, and
Yeah.
it goes up to $12,000 exemption. You also get lower interest rates. You get free hunting and fishing licenses in state parks.
Right.
Kentucky.
National parks.
A lot of veterans, disabled veterans, will move to Kentucky because Kentucky's most popular 100% service-connected benefit is Kentucky will waive all state college and university tuition and fees for 100% disabled veterans,
Right.
dependents, and spouses.
There you go. Yep. And
So-
just FYI, Texas has that. It's called Hazelwood.
Oh, that's the Hazelwood. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what the Hazelwood Act is. But to your point, Kentucky also went a little further than just what the VA did. And, doggone it, we need to raise that up. We can talk all we want about government and we can bemoan and what have you all day long, but there's also a lot of good that, state governments are doing, in our case, to help our great veterans.
Absolutely. One thing actually that I kind of would like to advocate in the future, since we're on this subject, I never understood why I was a previous Colorado resident and had disabled veteran plates, which got me into state parks for free in Colorado. But if I drove across the border into Wyoming, I could not. I had to be a Wyoming resident for those benefits. And I couldn't understand. I was, always thinking, didn't I fight for the United States? I didn't, go fight for just the state of Colorado.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot to be done in Washington still. I know the DAV has a lot of representatives in Washington, which is extremely important because every year budgets are passed for the VA. And DAV representatives are in Washington to make sure that those budgets stay fair and accurate so that we don't lose those benefits. Because if no one's fighting for those,
Right.
those could get lost in budget
That's a
cuts
great
through the
point.
next year.
Great point.
And I think that it's important
Yeah.
to realize how much the DAV really plays in the legal aspects of things. as
We
well.
have in our presence today my good friend Kathy Ward of the JP and Kathy show. And I have described Kathy for 20 years as my political liaison. When I need something done politically, she's my go-to. Regardless of the hour or day of the week, she knows if I'm calling, God love her, she'll answer. And so I've made a note of what you just said about crossing over state to state. here in Texas, they started to identify our Purple Heart recipients in the disability parking spots or handicap parking spots. So here is a situation where if they have a Purple Heart plate, they can park in a handicap spot. And, we got that through a few years ago, and there's a lot of state governments interested in these types of practices, policies that really, think about it, Ryan, you make a good point. It's not heavy lifting to contemplate, okay, I went from Colorado to Montana. Why should I not be recognized in the state of Montana or Wyoming or, Hawaii, for God's sake, right? So good point. And I'm giving that to Kathy, and she's sitting there typing, and I know that she's going to work on that. So we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
We were talking about
TA, TAP, and so in the time we have left, which give or take 5 minutes, I want to sort of illuminate for you what the DAV did for you once you got connected to them.
Sure. So they became an integral part of helping me get to that 100% mark. When I first had my first disability claims when I was in the service, when I got out, I was at 60%, and I got 0% for many conditions such as my back and knees, which I had just recently had surgery on and was still in physical therapy. And then I reapplied when I got out. And when I reapplied and got out, the process was just so lengthy. I had just started another grad school program, and I was looking for help. I felt like maybe I needed to do an appeal process. And then I found out by Googling and stuff more about the DAV. So I contacted the DAV in Denver. They first told me, listen, this is what we're here for. And we want to know a little bit more of your situation because you might not need to appeal. You might just need reconsideration, which is a lot easier than going through an appeal process, which turned out that they were right, that I just needed to do a reconsideration process instead of an appeal. So that prevented me from hiring an attorney, and then it had taken a lot longer. So I got them involved just about 4 or 5 months after I got out. And then they kind of took over from there as far as gathering my medical records and getting it sent to the VA and being my representative. And then after they got involved, my rating had increased to 100%. So they were fully helpful in that situation for myself.
And let me just interject real quick here that for those family members listening, this is something important for them to know when they're helping their own veteran navigate the VA system once they're out, is understand that the DAV has access to all military and medical records of your veteran. And what's great about this is, in your case, they're able to pull up your records and see what benefits you should be getting that you're not, and other benefits that potentially you could be getting that you're going to look at, and they're going to help you navigate that path as well. And so you had mentioned an attorney, and look, everybody understand, it's just a part of our life today that sometimes we may have to do that. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person for, having to hire an attorney. It's unfortunately just simply the way it is, when you're trying to navigate such a journey. So I want people to understand that if you do, you do. You're not going to dole out tens of thousands of dollars, but if the DAV gets so far and then you have to do, a little bit more, then we do a little bit more to get our kids and our veterans whatever the heck they need. And so, my hat's off to you there. And just, you mentioned you had a back surgery and knee surgery. I know the story, but tell everybody kind of quickly what your back surgery was about.
Well, that wasn't anything that occurred in combat or anything.
Right.
But
you did have to sit in an airplane you had some long flights, did you not?
Yeah, so that's a good point, actually, asking me this question, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there who feel like just because I wasn't injured in combat, they don't
Right.
feel like they should get these benefits, right?
Bingo.
Well, your life in the service is a lot different still,
Right.
even if you're not at war. You know, you are still forced to get the type of medical care that you have to get. You're still forced to do push-ups and sit-ups and run and carry backpacks.
Right.
So for me, I started having a back injury about halfway through my career, you know, and nobody really believed me, my flight doctors, and their goal as a pilot is to keep me flying, not to ground me. So it was always ibuprofen, you're too young to have a broken back. And so years later, you know, after going to the hospital several times, and I finally was able to convince a surgeon to go in and just look at my back. And they found that my spine was completely broken in half.
Wow.
So for years, I was forced to carry on with a broken back.
Right.
So I think that's a really good example for
Yeah.
those who think that they don't deserve benefits because they didn't
Right.
occur during battle.
Well said. Well said. So I want to, Ryan, if it's okay, I would love to bring you back on another show in the future and talk further on this. You've been an incredible guest. But before I let you go, if you were to summarize as you're sitting talking to a veteran needing help, or the parents of, or the wife of, or what, you know, in about 30 seconds or so, what else would you have to say to them right now?
Well, I know every veteran pretty much struggles when they get out. And I would just reiterate what everybody else on the show has said. You know, the DAV is there for you. Every veteran is there for you. And just reach out and get that help, and don't be shy.
Wow. Well said, buddy. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on today. You know, folks, as you can tell, when we have guests on here, I could go on and on and on. There's so much to talk about. And you parents, you veterans, whoever are out there, you know, that are listening, even active duty that are out there listening, we're talking to you. We're letting you know that while it may sound like a really heavy journey or path that you're going to be on, there's ways of making that journey a lot less painful and shorter, and the DAV can certainly help with that. And Ryan, thank you for sharing your story with us. I would love to have you back, and if you're good with that, we'll do that again in the future. But
yeah, Greg, thanks a lot for having me. I would definitely love to come back anytime. I also want to say thank you for everything that you're doing, and the DAV. And I'd like to give a special shout out to your son, Brian, to thank him for his service. And I'm very, very happy that he's doing so much better.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Ryan, have a great rest of your day, sir.
You too, Greg. Take care.
Yes, sir. So we've had the adjutant of the DAV Texas on to talk about transition. We've had a veteran officer on to talk about transition. And you've heard me say, and I'll keep saying, generally officers are a bit more buttoned up. And, you know, no matter your rank or how detail-oriented you are, there's still going to be hiccups. And the message today is DAV, DAV.org, DAVtexas.org. If you're needing help, guidance, whatever, even before you get out of the military, reach out, get a TSO. If you can't find a TSO, check with your resource center on base. And by the way, before I go any further, I want to give a little shout out, you guys. We've got 3 people listening. One is from is Lance Corporal Presley, nicknamed Bear Roberts. He's listening in from Darwin, Australia. Boy, he's up in the wee hours. Specialist Garrett Brummett is listening in from Fairbanks, Alaska. And retired U.S. Air Force Major Aaron O'Leary listening in from Belgium today. Well, actually, I guess it would be nighttime there almost. So we want to say hello to you. I also want to say a quick hello to a group that my son has interacted with, still does to this day. And we're going to have these folks on as a guest in the future. It's called Veterans Adventure Group. And what they do is to work with veterans, help them with PTSD, etc., by way of mountain climbing, base jumping. It's an incredible group of guys, gals. I think there's some members of the North Face climbing team that are a part of this thing as well. So I want to say thank you to that group and everybody who helps the veterans that are out there. And so continuing on with our conversation about TAP, Transition Administrative Program. This is the idea of when you're getting out, use your time wisely. You have 6 months when that begins. And the more effective you are, the more efficient you are during that 6-month time frame, the better life you're going to have as a veteran. And it's finding out about a lot of the benefits you have. And one of our next guests is a man who's been on a couple of times. And I think so much of this organization, this school, this man, his team. And I've asked Todd to come back on today and talk about, that transition period. What does that mean to a school like the Dean King Training Institute? And so, Todd, are you there?
I am, Greg.
Good afternoon. Good morning, I
Hi
guess,
there.
where you are, right?
It is 11:38 in the morning.
Right.
Good afternoon to you.
Right. Well, it's good to see you on live this week instead of a picture of you. But I assume that you've heard our last two guests, and we've been talking about the transition period, Todd. And before I get into that, take a minute or so and talk about the Dean King Training Institute, and then we'll segue from there into how the Dean King Training Institute can help our current active duty, start to look at the school, and then so on. So just take a second, tell the folks about the Dean King Training Institute.
You bet. Well, welcome, everybody. I am Todd Sudeck. I am the president and founder of the Dean King Training Institute. I started out as a one-man guy that started a company by learning paintless net repair back in 1993. I was a man in the van, and I turned it into a 275 technician based company out of Southern California. And we had hail crews throughout the hail belt of Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, and of course, Texas.
Right.
And for those that don't know, we transitioned from just providing the service. We got so good at training our employees to be successful in the business, and they were working for us on a commission split basis. We became licensed, and we started offering fee-based training programs. And we basically were very passionate about teaching people how to basically be king of their own thing, for them to operate their own business and be successful. And not everybody is built for college. My wife and I, we have 7 kids together, and not everybody is built for a 4-year university or a junior college. And to have a skilled trade under your belt, particularly in these times, is very nice to have.
Right.
It's financially rewarding, and it's fun owning your own business.
Right. Right. And I know at some point, Todd, I know these things, and I'm anxious for you to share it with the world. And your audience today, again, the military bases around the world and all of those that are listening, and some of them are about to transition out. And so there was a time when you were going along and you were offering, if you will, hail repair as a retail proposition. And at some point you decided, we're so good at doing this, let's teach it. And so I know you opened a school from there, but more importantly, you took a look and said, there's veterans out there that we can help. And so talk about that decision, because look, I'm just going to say real quick, anytime you have to work with the bureaucracy of any government and it especially with the VA or what have you. And again, I'm not poo-pooing. It's a little bit of heavy lifting. It's certainly outside the realm of what you had done in the past. So you're a smart guy. You made a decision to help our veterans, and talk about that transition for you to go from just retail to school, and not just school, but also a school where you're going to help veterans.
Yeah, I can't say that I did it for selfish reasons, but I determined and discovered early on as we were growing our base of technicians that any man or woman that had served our country and was in the military, they tended to be built a little bit different than just a civilian. They had skill sets and people skills, and the way they conducted themselves really made for them to be very valuable employees. They were my best employees.
Right.
And I was training them on my dime, and they were working with me, and they came from, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and
Coast Guard, Army, wherever.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
We had military, we had police, we had
Right.
firefighters,
Yeah.
we had all branches of the military. But the technicians, Greg, they really possessed the technical ability and the people skills that allowed them to be successful. And while they were successful working under the auspice of the Ding King, at the end of their 5 years, I allowed everybody to basically start their own business.
Wow.
So we were training veterans, not getting paid for it, hiring them, and it became obvious that there were so many veterans transitioning out of the military looking for a skilled job, something beyond what they typically gravitate to when they come out of the military.
Sure.
And
non-traditional college or what have you.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. And we got approved by the Department of Veterans Affairs to offer post 9/11 GI Bill and vocational rehabilitation funded programs. So now veterans could come to school, learn the trade, not be married to a 5-year contract. Right. And we would teach them, in addition to the skill sets of the technical abilities, we would teach them how to manage a business, how to pick a winning name for the business, how to incorporate or become an LLC or a sole proprietorship and file for your DBA and your business license, get the proper insurances that are required to operate in the field. And we taught them estimating. We provide estimating software. I mean, I can go down the whole gamut, but we prepared them to operate their own business.
Turnkey.
And that's what we do now.
Turnkey.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we're passionate about it. I'm not, how do you say this the right way? I'm not driven by money.
Right.
I'm 55 years old. I've raised 7 kids. I've got a beautiful wife that I love. Most of my employees have been with me between 25 and 27 years, and I've been 29 years in business.
That's amazing.
And you've met them all, Greg, so you know them.
I have, and they are amazing people. Just the fact that they put up with you. Yeah, it is a family.
And the veterans, and as well as customers coming through, body shop clients and dealership sending technicians, they're all part of our family.
Right.
I mean,
awesome.
We've got 17 different instructors, and we teach paintless dent repair, windshield repair, wheel repair, window tinning, interiors, ceramic coating, paint correction. You name it. If it has to do with the cosmetic of a car, we've got a program, about 14 of them, covering all aspects of reconditioning a car.
Yeah. And so, Todd, as we move through our conversation here and segue now to talk to the current active duty that are going to be looking at transition soon. You heard Teresa on before talking about how important it is to get plugged into that right away. We just had a veteran on before you, Captain Riesenberg, who talked the same thing. He said, I could have done a better job. And now, from the standpoint of an actual training facility, school, like the Dane King Training Institute, when you're contemplating conversations with these folks who are, they pick up the phone and they call you or send you an email. And by the way, it's todd@daneking.com. Did I get that right?
Todd at thedaneking.com or Todd at daneking.com.
No,
Either one.
No, okay, very good. So if you have questions, reach out there. Also share@daneking.com. And I'll talk about share in a moment. But specifically what I'm saying here is that when you heard Captain Riesenberg say, I could have done a better job of being more buttoned up as I was leaving, and you hear something like that, and he's talking directly to the military bases and those on those bases who are about to go or are in the transition period, and or we're going to be promulgating information to TSO officers in the future about different programs, etc. So now, as the dean of a school, the owner of a school, president of a school, what would you say to these folks as it relates to not just PDR, but at any and all vocations?
I think it's important for anybody transitioning out of the military to be prepared and ready for civilian life. From what I've gathered, there tends to be some challenges transitioning from a very structured format that the military provides and walking into civilian life after serving our country. I hear quite a bit about the challenges that servicemen and women face. I think being prepared for what you're going to experience, whether you're working for an organization or you're learning a new skilled trade, I think it's important that you're prepared and you're ready for that. And what that means is open-ended. I don't know what that means because I don't know what it takes to be prepared, but you need to be mentally prepared to tackle what you want to tackle. And the veterans that we work with, they're ready. But the reason they're ready, a good majority of the vets that come through our training institute are not transitioning out. They've been out for a decade.
Right.
And they give me the same feedback. I wish I would have known about this when I was transitioning out.
Wow.
And
that's a huge statement.
It is. I mean, a transitioning veteran, they got their whole life ahead of them. What are they going to do with their life? What are they going to be passionate about? It's not just about making money. It's about, being happy doing what you do. I wake up every morning at 2:30 to 3 in the morning, and whether it's financial reports or marketing or helping students build websites and having it in their inbox, so when they wake up, they see something that I've designed for them. I'm passionate about what I do. I love it. And I would hope that anybody transitioning out of the military, starting whatever business they do, that's the type of gumption you got to have.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah. Well said. And I think that coming from what I would call you or label you as a self-starter, it's a little bit ironic, if you will, when you contemplate many of these non-coms, non-officers who are going to go from the military into normal life. And as I said to, I think, Teresa or Ryan, they're accustomed to every day being told what to do, where to be, when to brush their teeth, when to get in bed, when to turn off the lights, and when to go to sleep. And, that's a big challenge for them if they've been in for 4 years or 6 or 16 or 26. And now all of a sudden, okay, what the hell am I going to do with my day tomorrow? And so talking about that from a standpoint of being a self-starter, thinking about these things, talk about that a little bit. Again, as a self-starter, as a president of a company, talk to these folks that are going to transition soon. Say something to them about that.
You bet. When you're transitioning out of something that you've done for a number of years and you're going to attempt to do something that quite possibly you've never done in the past, which is work for somebody other than the military, or B, begin a venture of your own. And doing so requires the wearing of multiple hats. I mean, you're definitely going to wake up early, you're going to shower up, you're going to get dressed, you're going to be looking tidy, and you're going to be calling on dealerships, or you're going to be calling on car washes or body shops. And you're going to get rejected. And how do you handle that rejection? And how do you overcome objections? These are things that you need to learn to deal with and understand specifically how to do that for this particular industry,
right?
Or whatever industry you're getting into,
right?
So technically, being able to learn a trade, I would imagine that most people, given quality training and education and having mileage where they continue to practice their skills and develop their speed and their proficiency and their confidence, that most people coming out of my institute are going to be technically very savvy and feel very confident that they're going to be successful. But Greg, you and I both know that operating a business, whereas you got to wear more than just a technician hat. You got to be able to wear the marketing hat, you know,
the HR hat, the accounting hat. Yeah.
The accounting hat, the banking hat, the customer follow-up hat. You got to answer the phone and be on your game.
Right.
You got to follow up with customers when you say you're going to do so. These are there's so many minute details. I mean, there are probably 100 to 200 that we cover throughout the training. We have daily lunches and daily sit-down sessions. My door is always open. And I basically sit with the students and I cover all the minute details that they need to be extremely familiar with if they're going to go out and really be fulfilled, be successful on every level.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of things that you got to do when you own your own business that if you don't know what you need to do and how to do it, it's not going to get done properly.
Yeah. And I just want to inject here, God love all of our aunts and uncles and grandpas, and you know they care about us and they're going to give us good advice. But I want to say this: if you want to go into business, get good advice from successful business leaders. And again, if your grandfather happens to be that, or your mom or your dad, that's great. That's great. But you know, I could go on and on. Todd, you know, our time is so limited. Every time I could go on and on. It
flies by.
Yeah. And if it's good, I want to bring you back again. I never tire of talking with you. Before we go, I want to point out all of you who are contemplating, you're in transition, you don't know what to do. There are, good gosh, how many YouTube videos regarding the Ding King that are out there if you want to understand what this is about, how you guys
function. Greg, let's go one step further than that.
Yeah.
My phone number, my cell phone number, it's right here.
All right.
Cell phone number is 949-981-3464. Whether you're a customer of mine or not a customer of mine, if you're a veteran and you're seeking some guidance and some mentoring, I welcome the challenge. And I mean that sincerely. You'll find when you call me, I'll answer your call. If you want to text me first and let me know your name and the topic you want to talk about, I can set aside some time and say, hey, I can talk in 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
But I would love the opportunity to talk to anybody that needs any mentoring. I really thrive and it's incredible. My forte. I mentor people. I coach baseball, football, basketball, and soccer for all my children.
Right.
I love working with people, and if it's helping a veteran, there's nothing more rewarding, at least for me. I love it.
That's incredible. Give me the number again, Todd.
949-981 DING, D-I-N-G, which is 3464.
Got it.
981-3464.
And again, you can go to Todd at dingking.com. I would say if you're interested in wanting to start looking into what your benefits are, if you're already out.
Correct. They can also visit the website, which is thedingking.com, and there's a whole military section of the website.
Wow,
You'll get lost.
And that's thedingking.com.
You got it, Greg.
Okay. Todd, again, I thank you so much for your time. I know
My
time
pleasure.
is a precious asset of yours, and I would never seek to abuse that, but I look forward to bringing you back on again.
Anytime. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks. Have a great day, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So there you go. Then you have it from the founder, CEO of a school, also an entrepreneur. We're still talking about that transition out. We've got about 4 minutes left in our show today, and I have a last guest coming on right now, and we're going to continue the conversation with her. Dana LaRue is the CEO of her own company. She is also involved with Master Networks, which we have talked about before. And because our time is going to be so limited, I'm going to barely get through an introduction of Dana. And I've already texted her and begged her to come back another time so we can talk more. But again, the notion here is that you've heard from an adjutant of the DAV, you've heard from a veteran of the DAV, you've heard from the founder of a school. So if you're going to go to school to learn a trade or what have you, and now you're going to hear from a entrepreneur herself who has been there, done that, so to speak. And so, Dana, I'm so sorry that we have such limited time, but I think there's somebody coming in the studio after me. But hello, you look quite lovely today.
Thank you, thank you. I got my Zoom clothes on.
There you go. So, Dana, you've heard the conversations that we've had today as it related to the DAV and veterans, and from Todd, a CEO in a company. And so just briefly, from a standpoint of Master Networks, we talked with Gary of the North Texas region before as well. Tell me what that Master Networks has meant to you and your company.
Sure. Well, every small business owner, they tell you to go network, but nobody really teaches you how. Or you've got a fabulous idea, you start a business, and you may be really good at this one thing, but there's a lot of other things that you don't know anything about.
Right.
What I found about Master Networks was the training. I mean, I'd been networking a while with our business, but networking groups, it was just, do your little soundbite, talk about your business, and that was pretty much it. There was no business training.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy. I think the number is crazy if there's like 89% of brand new businesses fail in the first 2 years.
Yes.
And that's not because of lack of funding. It's lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I loved about Master Networks is the training component. They're really a training organization masquerading as a networking company. The gentleman that's the dean of Master Networks University, his name is Dave Jenks.
Okay.
Now, that may or may not ring a bell with you, but Dave used to teach business in academia at the university, the collegiate level.
Okay.
And unlike a lot of professors, wanted to know if what he was teaching was real, if it worked in the real world, right? So he left academia and went to work for a company called s1e2 in the real estate world.
All right.
This is how long ago that was. Do you remember when s1e2 agents wore the gold coats?
Yeah, right.
That was Dave Jenks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he got recruited away from s1e2 by this little startup company from Austin. By the gentleman that recruited him away was a guy named Gary Keller. So together, he and Gary Keller wrote, it's still the #1 book of Millionaire Real Estate Next Door with Dave Jenks on there.
Okay.
Well, today, Keller Williams is known worldwide for its training, being the #1 training company in the world.
Okay.
Not necessarily for just real estate.
Right.
But when Dave retired from Keller Williams, and people like that, they can't sit on their thumbs.
Right.
They don't twiddle their thumbs very well.
Oh, yeah.
So he started coming up with business practices and things like that. Well, when I found out he was the dean of Master Networks University, it made me take pause and listen.
Right.
And just the education. I mean, this is
Right.
collegiate education.
Right.
And it's, for me, I'm a little OCD and ADD.
Uh-huh.
You know, everything has to be perfect,
Right.
but it doesn't have to last long.
Right. Oh, I love that.
Sometimes when you go to those seminars, you know, there's just so much information, you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you've got the analysis paralysis coming in, or what do you do first?
Right.
Well, what I like about that is they actually have a book. It's called The 5+1. That's 5 business skills every entrepreneur needs.
Okay.
And that's thinking, targeting, tracking, timing, and team building. And then the number 1 skill is networking. And it shows you how to do this. This can save so many businesses.
Right.
And it's simple.
Yeah.
It's super simple.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
you know, we've employed it in our business,
I
and
agree.
it's helped us go to a nationwide company.
That's awesome. And I think that the message there is not just for active military that's about to go through transition. This message is also for current veterans contemplating, okay, maybe they've been out 6 or 7 months or 6 or 7 years and they're still, I don't know, they're still looking, right?
Right.
Right. And it doesn't matter if you're going to go into the dent repair or, construction company, a boat building. It doesn't matter. There are principles of business that have to be followed. And so
Right.
What we're talking about here is that as you're transitioning once again, and veterans who are recently out and you're looking for some guidance, here's a perfect example once again of an organization out there that's there to help you.
Right.
They have many veterans within the organization who have their own, I think Gary said,
We're a veteran-owned business.
yeah, I think there's something like 900 members just in the North Texas region, and maybe a third or 40% are veterans. That's incredible. And so who better to learn from once again? And so, I hate like heck to cut us short. I love what you had to say. Would you come back on December the 4th? And I promise not to rush you. In fact, I'll make sure you're up front instead of the tail end next time so we can talk further.
That's fine. That's fine. Listen, I think if we win anywhere, we win everywhere, Greg. And especially for the people coming out of the military, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And you don't even know you don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Well said. Dana, thank you so much.
Welcome.
If you want to reach out to Dana and talk more, she actually has a company of her own, which we'll talk more about next time, Dana. And really how she found or discovered Master Networks was her own company, and she wanted to build that up and make it more successful, which we all want to do. At any rate, reach out to Dana, D-A-N-A, at the go ahead.
Credit Cops.
Go ahead. thecreditcops.com. Dana, you tell them.
It's Dana, D-A-N-A, at THECREDITCOPS.com. The Credit Cops.
And that's
here to protect and serve your credit.
There you go. And that's a little tease because so many of our military personnel, they work under, if they're officers, they can't have debt or credit issues. Veterans getting out who want to buy a home or what have you. And so the Credit Cops can help rebuild scores or build scores or what have you. And I don't want to sound like a commercial. This is a critical part of our lives these days. And so it's only a little bit of a tease for now, but we'll go into more detail on Friday the 4th and talk about that company. And we'll just in general be talking about helping veterans, generally speaking, but in that particular case as it relates to credit, mortgages, etc. So, Dana, thank you,
Greg. I appreciate you allowing us this opportunity to chat.
You're so very welcome and so valued. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
So, folks, when we first started talking about doing a show, we talked about an hour, and we see where that's going. We've yet to do an hour, so it's clear that I'm not sure an hour is doable, but I just want to say thanks to all of our guests, all of you out there listening, whether you're in Darwin, Australia, or Fairbanks, or Belgium, or wherever you are. We know you're there. Thank you. When you've reached out to us via email, I'm going to throw my email up there as well. It's real simple. go3357 at yahoo.com. go3357 at yahoo.com. Feel free to reach out if you need help or guidance. We want to be a resource to help all of you, families, veterans, current active duty, whoever you are. So the next show will be on December the 4th at 12:30. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone that's out there. If you know a family who has a family member currently serving or deployed, or their base is far away from home, reach out to them. Reach out to the active duty. Reach out to the family. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know what you're thankful for on Thanksgiving, which is our freedom and what we're doing. You're thinking of them, as I said. And to all of you who have served, thank you so much for what you've done for our country. Folks, let us never forget and always remember the 22. And remember, many gave some, others gave more, and too many gave their all. Happy Thanksgiving. Talk to you soon.